Welcome to another week of The Weird Way. I am excited for today. I've got my brother here, Jacob O'Neill, and let me tell you, this man has been a pillar in my life for the last 2.5 years and someone I've respected, looked up to, and that inspires me deeply. So, brother, it is a pleasure to have you on here today.
Bro, 2.5 years. Feels like lifetimes.
Oh, yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, man, it is a great honor to have you here today. I know our journey has been inspirational. I've looked up to you many times. I first met you in ceremony and then joined you at a retreat and then followed you up here to the Gold Coast, attended Men's Weekly Connection. And it was a big initiation for me where I was able to join a brotherhood, get to know other men on the path. And in that, it really changed my life. So, yeah, throughout your journey, I've seen you in the last 2.5 years. You've grown, you've developed, and in that time, you've continued to inspire myself to show up, to be a man, to live the life that's true for me. And I also know that hasn't always been true for you. You haven't always been on this path of where you are now, and I imagine that it's been quite a journey to get to where you are today.
Oh, bro. Yeah. Like the last 2.5 years feels like not even the easy bit, but it's been feeling like the bit where I'm like, I think I might be choosing it now. It's not just choosing me and I'm holding on for dear life. But, yeah, man, it hasn't always been this way. Yeah, there was a time before where I had subscribed to what I thought life had to look like. And it wasn't that was bad. It was just that there was something missing. And I feel that it can be really easy when you're in the entrepreneurial space to look back and almost, it's easy to shame the other side, the 9 to 5, or, people that, want to work for someone else. Oh, why would you do that? I had a fucking ball. I loved my time in that realm, and like, who knows what's going to happen in the future, man? I don't know what it holds. I know what I want and what my intention is. However, yeah, my time before I had my, let's say, an awakening or an expansion or a course redirect to something that felt more true for my soul, it was awesome. I was having a great time, man. I was making money. I had a lot of certainty. So even though my nervous system wasn't able to hold what it can today, it was very, very relaxed. And I was using a lot of less than favorable coping mechanisms to keep myself believing that I was accessing what I wanted or getting those little hits of freedom, those little hits of adventure. But yeah, the more I walk this path that I'm on now, the more I realize just how much more deeply I feel in this moment, how much more present I am, how much more of my body is available to me in moments of presence.
What I really love about this is, I know for myself on the path, there was parts where I was like, oh, if I can just get there, then I'll be happy. Then I'll have all the things and it'll be all okay. And I think a lot of people can get onto more the entrepreneurial path and they're trying to get somewhere. And the piece I love about this is actually enjoying your time regardless of where you are and making the most of that. And I think this is a big difference to how a lot of people approach life. And they can get stuck in, that next thing, that is where I'll get the hit. That is where I'll feel free. That is where my life will be perfect. And I think you and me both know that moment isn't coming if you're chasing it.
No, it's not. And it's not that I now know that and I never have moments of discomfort. I think it's a recurring practice to come back to that knowing or that belief that anchors me in a place of I'm accepting where I'm at, but I'm also inspired about where I'm going. And you're so right, bro. Like that practice of letting go of needing to be somewhere before you're there is really a lot of the entrepreneurial path. And I saw you put up a story recently around surrender, and you're not surrendering and just sitting back and like letting life do whatever it wants. So life's going to do it all for me. The universe is going to come and, wash my dishes and do my sales calls and, put out content or, go and facilitate at this retreat for me. Like we're surrendering to the life moving through us. And when we actually let go of how it needs to look and what we need it to be, and it just is, we surrender that. That's when that inner guidance comes online, and the actual the acceleration once that life moves through you, the acceleration that can occur, whether it's in a relationship, business, or in your own personal practice, it's kind of profound. Everything just starts to make sense. You're like, oh, of course, this. And that surrender's been my ongoing practice, bro, because as you know, I get pretty hyped up about what's next. Yeah. Get excited, and I want to launch 100 things at once, and I want to be an elder already.
I feel that one of the things that was coming alive, full intention, no expectation. And for me, that is that practice of like, I want this, I desire this, I'm all in on this and not holding anything back, because I know we can get to points and like, what if this goes wrong? What if this? But for me, so much of this journey is playing full out and putting it on the line, being willing to go there. And in that, letting go of the expectation of this is how it's going to be. This is how this relationship is going to show up. This is how this call's going to go. This is how any of it's going to go. But surrender to the aliveness of the moment.
Yeah. Man. When you say that, I'm like, well, what else is there? Like there's nothing else but that practice to fiercely believe and move toward that which you desire, whilst being completely non-attached to getting there ever. That just like really speaks to like legacy as well, in regards to, where I'm going in service to something greater than myself? And is it like, well, will I just be the first? Will I take the first step? Is there going to be 1,000 steps in this the desire that I have to serve? And, maybe I take the first 10, but then the next generation takes the next 5, and then nothing happens for a generation. It's like, how do we... And I think that's where that infinite game, like Simon Sinek stuff, comes in for me. I'm like, oh, where am I just playing the finite, playing in the realm? Whenever I play in that finite, like there's a certain amount of something... 9.9 times out of 10, it's scarcity.
Yeah.
I have to get as much of something as I can because it's going to run out. Or this is going to end. Or I need to prepare for the worst, or I need to get somewhere so I feel enough. But in the infinite game, which is kind of what you're alluding to with that, set the intention, let go of expectation, we can just keep looking forward to things without needing them right now. Which I love.
Having that desire pull us further into the world of being like, oh, where's life pulling me? Let it draw me deeper into life.
Yeah, man, that guidance. I never knew that was a thing. I reckon I was following it a little bit, but I was probably waiting for someone else to choose it for me or someone else to point it out. And I think I was letting life, like jumping on the coattails of other people at times, whether it was a boss or even moving to Brisbane when I first left my hometown. My sister was like, I'm going to go to uni. Do you want to come to uni? And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like that wasn't my choice. That was hers. Grateful for it because, I feel there's a level of the initiatress that has been present in my life in calling me forward. So I'm really grateful. I still had to say yes, right? I still showed the fuck up. It's not giving my full power away, but I was letting go of responsibility of the decision.
Yeah. I can really see the similarities in my own life. Like my brother went to uni, I followed him, did a similar degree, and I was like, oh, cool. He seems like he knows what he's doing. And I didn't take the responsibility like you're talking about of, oh, this is my life. I have to be the one that chooses it. I have to decide what it is I want, what I desire, and to trust in that. And to let go of what will other people think. Oh, or maybe that won't be a smart move. You're becoming an entrepreneur. You're creating a business. Like letting go of the ideas that's too different, or no one in my family has done that before. And for me, it seems like there was a point. I know we've talked about it that you've been on this journey for 7 years and it hasn't always looked like it has now. And you said, you know, there was this part where you gave responsibility to your sister to call you out on your path. And then I believe at some point in that journey, you reclaimed that for yourself and you chose. And I'm curious, when was it? Because you said you were enjoying the life that you live. And I know I serve a lot of men that get to that point from pain. Yet how did you know it was time for you to step onto your own path?
It's another initiatrix story, bro, like that sort of led to it. But essentially, I had a lot of resistance to leaving the security of full-time work. I had a load of resistance. And security, not just financially, but security and identity. I knew who I was. I knew what I had to do. There was this beautiful, beautiful structure that didn't ever make me feel overwhelmed. There was things that I had to do that were a bit scary. You know, like I was a sales rep and it's like, okay, fly to Cairns and go and meet the council and talk about wastewater and septics. And I was in the plumbing industry and I'm like, that's scary. I don't know anyone at the council. I'm flying to Cairns. I'm like fucking 25 years old. I've never done anything like this. I've always just worked in somewhere where I have a set of jobs to do every day. So I got used to that new level of security, but also got used to my identity, like that security of identity. And it wasn't until Meg alluded to me. We'd been dating for, I think maybe it was like anywhere between like 6 and 18 months. It was sometime in there. And she said, hey, I can feel that you're pretty content with where you're at and there's not much more that you want. Like I can't feel like you've got any urge or passion to go anywhere. I was really passive. I wasn't even, they talk about like being in the driver's seat. I was in the back on the iPad. I wasn't even watching the road. And I was really a passenger in my own life in that regard. And Meg kind of said, hey, do you want to come and sit up the front with me? Do you want to come and like check out where we're going or where I'm going? Because I'd like you to come with me. And it doesn't have to be you, but I'd like it to be you. So that was a really cool experience of an invitation. So I think I went from letting someone else make a decision for me to then being invited to make a decision, a yes or no decision, which Meg put our relationship on the line. She's like, if you don't want this, then we don't have a relationship. She was very articulate and she was quite artful in the way that she brought that. It wasn't like you need to change or I'm going to dump you. It's like, if you don't want this, that's okay, but I do, and I want to do it with someone who wants it as well. I think that's a really important piece because she didn't shame me or force me into making this decision. And I remember I was sitting on the bathtub, told the story 100 fucking times at home, and she rang me and we had that conversation. And I'd been such a serial, like, pessimist, fucking realist. Like, this is the way, the world is the way it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. This is it, And I'd been even though I believed to be quite a creative person, or that's what I thought I was, in that season of my life, I was so analytical. I didn't have there wasn't a lot of color to my life. There wasn't a full spectrum. There was just this is what it is, this is what it isn't, and this is how the world works, and this is how my life's going to look for the next 50 years. And in that moment, I chose to say, no more of that, I'm in. And from then on out, it became this whole unraveling of me choosing and being aware of what choices I was making. Every time I changed to fit into a family dynamic, I was like, I'm choosing to change who I am. Fuck. Every time Meg said something that I didn't agree with and I agreed with it, I'm choosing to abandon and become passive. Fuck. So all of this discomfort came up. But that's when I really started to become aware of just how, not lost, but just how unintentional I was with my life.
I feel that story so deeply, and a big theme there is you believed that life was known.
Yes.
Like you had it planned. You had the white picket fence story. This is what it is. This is where I'm going. And to say yes to yourself, you had to give up all you assumed you knew. And that takes a lot of courage, because as humans, I believe all of us, we like to have comfort. We like to feel safe. And this is what I believe keeps a lot of people trapped in their world, is that they're afraid to say yes to the unknown, to go where they don't know and step outside of that story. So for yourself, what gave you the strength or the courage to be like, that isn't worth it, and I need to say yes to what I don't know?
I think the way that when Meg posed that question, I was like, I actually really want to have a crack at this relationship. I really, like, you bring something to my life that no one else has yet. And I know there's more for us to explore, and I do want this. So in the beginning, I was like, this is a way for me to start my journey of something different, something new. But realistically, it was just a slow burn for me, man. Like, it wasn't some big, massive moment. It was like, okay, cool. I'm going to say yes to more things. I'm going to say no to more things that aren't for me. So I started, like, my family would some family members would need something from me. I was like, no, I'm actually going down to Byron this weekend to spend the weekend with Meg. I'm going to go to this naked yoga class. I'm going to do these things that I wouldn't ever expected myself to do. And I started to just realize almost how comical and how ludicrous life really is when you're playing in such a small frame. And you speak of the known and the unknown. What I started to realize was like, I don't have to completely throw away the known, but I can start to explore this other area, which is the unknown, which started with, some little like naked yoga, a weekend. Like, I would never ever have thought to go for a weekend in Byron. That's like the most basic shit. They're like, no, we just stay where we're at. We live in Burleigh. Let's stay in Burleigh. Let's go down and get the same ice cream every night. Let's have sex in the same missionary position. Let's do this, do that. That's enough. And I think my contentment is both a shadow and a great gift. But that moment that I said yes to Meg, I started saying yes to things that were outside of my known. And I didn't let go of the known straight away, but there was a time where I had to get to that point where I was like, okay, it's time to let go of some of these big things, these weights, and actually start to free fall and start to see where you're going. You're going to have to really let yourself go there.
It really feels like after that there was a period of this exploration in opening to the world.
Yeah, and just, I mean, like in that time, it's so cliche, but I read the Celestine Prophecy.
Yep.
Classic. Like, I feel like there's so many men that's their first, like, whoa, spirituality. What is this? Whoa, energy. And then from there, I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. These two books were like, they were just like, I was like, oh fuck, this is like putting words to shit that I feel. I didn't know that these feelings had a way of being contextualized or put into a definition that other people feel is cool. All right, awesome. And then I did a Wachuma journey, which is a type of plant medicine. It's a mescaline. It's the cactus from the Andes, and it's also called San Pedro or Grandfather. And yeah, man, I had what could only be described as like, holy fuck. There's so much more than I ever thought.
It sounds like that period, that moment was something that really shifted a lot for you. And looking back, like, what changed in your reality from that experience?
I was like, I want more of this. And not in a like, oh, I'm hungry for it, but like, this is what is calling me deeply. Like this exploration of consciousness. And that particular ceremony gave me this deep connection to the earth, to the waters, to all of the beings, like the trees. And realistically, what it kind of gave me was this idea of just unconditional love. And I know that's so fucking cliche, but realistically, it was like I felt this like overwhelming sense of love just pouring out of me and back into me and out of me and back into me. And it was just almost like this self-filling, self-generating, self-serving love that didn't need anything from anyone, or I didn't have to be anything for anyone. I just existed in this presence, man. It was like pure presence. And that's when I was like, fuck, I'm making this a priority in my life.
Yeah.
And that was where I started. Like, I didn't need so much an initiatrix, other than I would there was invitations and I would respond to them. So literally straight after that ceremony, one of my teachers, she said, we're going to go on this trip to Peru. And I was like, what's the deposit? Paid it the following week. And 6 months later, I was in Peru. And I would never do anything like that, bro. Never before. No, I was like, nah, let's save for a townhouse. Let's play it safe. Let's do what's normal. But I just said, and I went to work and they're like, oh, you don't have enough holidays. I was like, I'm going. Like either you can fire me or just I'll have it the time off without pay. And they're like, okay, you can have the time off without pay. Yeah. And I was just like really clear on what I wanted more of.
And that's a big moment to actually choose yourself like that and say, this is where I'm going. And you spoke of that it's kind of ludicrous when you live in that small box. And yet I find that when we open it, the ludicrous of it actually increases. Because next thing you know, you're traveling to the Andes. I was reflecting this on about 6 weeks ago. I got invited to a self-pleasure temple and I was reflecting on life and I was like, if I knew that this is where I'd end up, to get invited to a temple where there's self-pleasure and like a person reach out to me directly and say, hey, I want you here for this, I would have been like, this exists? This is possible? And there's been many moments in my life where it's like, wow, what? This exists. This is a reality. People come into my life that just make it happen, like this podcast studio. We're in your space right now. I set the intention about a month ago. Hey, I'm going to start a podcast. And next thing you know, you open up your space to be like, hey, it's possible for people to come record a podcast here. And the ludicrous of life, I find, increases as we open. And what has your experience been in this opening? Because I know you said it was ludicrous before, but now,
yeah, it's beyond ludicrous. It's nonsense. It makes no sense. And in the letting go of it needing to make sense, it synchronizes. The synchronicities become apparent. They become so front of mind. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how synchronized life becomes when you let go of it needing to make sense and you embrace the ludicrousness, ludiocracy, or whatever we want to call it. I started to have things just line up, like click into place and like boom, boom, boom. Oh, ding, 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 ding. And things would like start to amplify along the path for me. And like coming back from Peru, I was like, I want to create an app. And then the next week I'm doing some landscape work, some maintenance for my great aunt at one of her buildings up at North Brisbane. And I'm chatting to some guys who rent one of the buildings there and they develop apps. And they say, come in next week. And then within a week, I've started building an app. And I'm like, holy shit. When you embrace the unknown, when you allow it to be a part of your life fully, anything's fucking possible. But not just anything, the thing that actually is here for you becomes almost the only option. Yeah. I think that's probably more right. It's not like that anything's possible. It's the thing that you want to make possible becomes is presented. Yeah. And whether it's just the next step on the journey of life or whether it's the thing that you know you're here to build for the rest of your life. Like for me, that app, I thought it was going to be my life. Turns out it was just a 3-year head fuck. But it was the catalyst for me to leave my job, which then allowed me to go through the dark night of the soul of not knowing what actually entrepreneurship is. And yeah, I've always jumped without a fucking chute, bro. That's always been my kind of my approach. And I tell myself, you need to be a bit more prepared when you make these decisions. If I was more prepared, I wouldn't make it. Realistically, that's my truth. Yeah. And like for me, I've navigated this a lot of when's the right time to jump. When is it? When is it perfect? And over again, I come back to that place of there is no perfection. Like when that desire is alive, when I feel it within myself, that is the time. The more I resist, like I'll lose that aliveness. It will just be like slowly and subtly push me back onto it. I believe I spoke to this last week on here, like first the feather, then the brick, and then the bus. And so often this is true
when we deny what is inside of us, to being like, oh, maybe I need to sit more medicine. Maybe I need to do more shadow work before I'm good enough, before I'm capable of creating what I want. And I've been ranting on this in the last week of, no, you don't need another hero's journey. You don't need to go to the depths of your soul out there doing something disconnected from what your heart's calling you to. Your heart is calling you along the way in which you need to go to learn everything that will give you what you want. It's not a separate thing that takes away, but it's following your heart, and that is the initiation.
Oh, brother.
Oh,
You just, you know, the call. You talk about the feather brick in the bus. I've explained that a few times to people recently, and until someone actually shared that the feather brick in the bus, I used to call it like your soul would whisper, and then your soul would start to scream, and then it become this deafening noise that you couldn't escape. And that feather brick in the bus is such a great gauge for what you're feeling. And I know that I got caught up in like trying to over-initiate myself in big hero's journey ways, and that's what we see in the medicine community. That's what we see people going back to more and more transformational events and never actually integrating. Yeah. And that's like before you actually answer the next call, are you integrating what you've learned? And like I said, I probably jump a little too early based on the consensus, but if I didn't jump, then I probably wouldn't jump after. Like that's for me, enthusiasm. Someone said this, enthusiasm has a half-life. If I let the enthusiasm pass me by, there's nothing there for me to feel there's nothing there to like engage and allow me to like literally jump off the edge of the cliff.
You need that little bit of fire up your ass to actually take that leap.
Yes. Yeah, man. Like that. Let that fire fucking carry you.
And I think there's great power in that if we actually go outside of ourselves and say, I trust in the universe. I trust that this is guiding me. And this is a thing. I believe in a benevolent universe. It is guiding us always. And I've never had it fail me. Even when my plans didn't go as I expected. I jumped too soon. I fucked up. I lost the business. I lost clients, whatever it is. I lost money, all of that. The relationship didn't work, whatever it was. There was a reason for that. And maybe it wasn't the reason I thought it was going to be. But it showed me something. It allowed me to learn to become the person I need to be here today, have this conversation, create the business I'm creating right now, all of that. And this is what I find most people are afraid of, that point of failure, that point of it didn't go the way I expected it to. The conversation, they got angry at me, there was conflict. What am I going to do? All of that comes from this expectation that it needs to go a certain way. And how do people let go of that?
It's such a fucker. It's such a fucker, bro. Like I've had conversations with guys, and I have conversations with many different men, but the guys that are really, really, really in the pros and cons list, they're the guys that always fucking find a reason not to do it. And I'm beginning to realize just how important it is to help people understand what they're choosing. And that is why people find it hard to let go, is because they don't believe they have a choice. Men focus so much on the external. What is my external responsibility, whether it's to a partner, whether it's to a family, whether it's to a car payment, a house payment, a job that they feel that that they owe something to the company. There's all of these things that have men believing that they don't have a choice. What's occurred with the government and how they've had things that have been forced upon the nation and the world. It's like you have a choice. And for me, whether this current society kind of takes all of your choices away from you and gives you all of these convenient options, I always look at it. It's like fucking that meal fucking box that comes to your house. It gives you all the ingredients. It tells you, here's what you're going to cook on Monday. Here's what you're going to cook on Tuesday. Here's the right amount of ingredients, the perfect amount. You don't need to have anything. Here's it all in a pretty little box. Don't make any decisions. Don't fucking do anything crazy. Don't try a new recipe, God forbid. In saying that, you do get exposure to new recipes, but what that trains people to do is to get into this routine of, I don't know how to make a fucking decision. Yeah. I'm just going to do what the instructions say. Mm-hmm. And the whole modern society is kind of built around that. It's built around comfort and convenience, which creates efficiency, which creates productivity, which creates us moving towards a safer world. I wouldn't say whether safe is better quite often, but the modern society kind of takes as many decisions off the table, which then has men not realizing that they have a choice. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Yeah. I felt this come up before in our conversation, and that is death. And I feel like with this safe society and, wanting to lead us to where everything is okay and being unafraid to fuck up or make a mistake, often I find it comes back from that fear of death and being afraid that this is going to end. So if I create enough safety, if I create enough known, I don't have to look at the fact that all of this is going to end at the end. Like, I know I'm building some epic fucking shit right now. And I know I'm going to die. It's going to die. Everything comes to an end. And because of that, because I know that death is coming for me, because it's going to be here regardless of what I do, how I live, the choices that I make, what I create. If I become the emperor of the fucking world, no one's probably going to remember me in 1,000 years. Mm-hmm. And there's an impermanence to this. And because of that, it's like, cool, what do I want to create for the joy of this life, for the pleasure of creating, for the experience? And yeah, I'm probably going to fuck up a lot of it, but is that worth living? Mm-hmm. And this is what I teach a lot of men, is to sit with death, to actually get to know death. And I wanted to hear, as men become less in this box, how do they connect to death to allow them to do that? Because I know for you, that's what initiation is. It's death.
It's a willingness to die in service to the next chapter. Fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Death has been such a beautiful teacher to me. I'm fortunate, I haven't had a lot of death around me in the form of people dying. I have had people die, no doubt. There's been some serious shitty times around that, from mates committing suicide, from old family, the older generation passing away. But that's once again all external. It's what's my relationship to my own death. I really look at it as am I willing to die as this version of myself? Am I willing to put myself, and what I ran 100 Ks at the start of this year in running sandals, and I was I want to know what it's like to be the version of me that runs 100 kilometers in those sandals. Yeah. And I'm not willing. It's either that or death. Yeah. And in that process, there was a death that took place, because I'm now no longer the guy that didn't do that. I'm the guy who did do that. And there's a sense of ego and a sense of pride that comes online with that. But at the same time, it's I committed to the process of initiation. I stepped through the threshold. I hit the start button on my watch, and I said, see you in 100. And Megan and I laughed. I said, see you in 100, lover. And she's like, awesome. Go get it. And I was like, fuck. There's an audacity to initiation when you're fully choosing it too. And there's also a humility to initiation when you're choosing it. There's an exposure to I could have fucked up 20 Ks in and been nah, this is no longer for me. Or similarly, I can go to a ceremony with the full intention to meet my death and only drink half a cup and then be oh, no, that's enough for me. Yeah. And back out. There's still a part of me that very much likes being alive. Yeah. But when I become aware that me being more concerned with being alive than living my truth, I don't know if we need to unpack that exact statement because it's a fucking paradox. I'm more concerned about preserving my life than living my life. That's when I know death needs to be brought in.
Yeah. It is such a powerful teacher, and in the moments, it's, for me, I can remember, like, I started on this journey 5 years ago, and I got to a moment where death was very much alive in my own field. I got to the moment where I was like, I can't continue on this. I was depressed, I was anxious, and I was like, fuck. Like, I got two choices ahead of me right now. I can die, or I can figure out how to live. I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't want to be in the life that I wanted. And so that meant I had to die to who I was, because clearly something wasn't aligned with my soul. And that's what I see nowadays is we don't have an endemic of people being depressed and anxious. That's all true. Yes, that's true. There's people out there suffering. But the real reason they're suffering isn't because of anything outside of themselves. It's because they're not being true to who they are.
Yeah.
And that they must be willing to actually meet their death, because they're knowing that this ends. It's like, well, fuck. Do I want to sit around here all day in my room in a dark place looking at a ceiling smoking a bong? I fucking didn't. And when people can see that, when they see that, oh, this ends regardless, it brings that question of how do we want to live?
And when you get around some brothers that are in that fucking, I want to fucking live, I'm here to fucking feel it, feel the fucking texture of life, shit gets real, bro. Shit becomes awesome. That for me was Men's Weekly Connection. Like, that was me like, fuck, what are we living for? Fucking Saturdays with the bros.
Yeah.
Cold water, deep breaths, fucking big energy.
Yeah. Screaming our fucking heads off.
Yeah. We're alive and we want the world to fucking know. Like, we're going to fucking make our mark.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like, that moment, like, that's where, like, if you ask me, like, my men's work journey, I've done a lot of men's work, but Men's Weekly Connection, which was our Saturday get together with the men, we do meditation, breath work, and a cold plunge in nature. That became my anchor for meeting death on a weekly basis, meeting the unknown on a weekly basis, having some kind of direct connection to faith, to spirit every week. And it cultivated this relationship of, like, I don't know what's on the other side, but I'm here to fucking find out.
Yeah. It was that drum beat. I know you always talked about it. It's a drum beat. We're just banging the drum, calling brothers in and bringing them home. Because for me, it was like, oh, there's other men here walking this path. They're not here, drinking every weekend, just getting more disconnected. They were here to be like, connect to themselves, to feel themselves. And that energy, it hits differently.
Massively, bro. It does. It hits differently. What's the word? It hydrates, or it like what's the word? No, it nourishes a part of me when I'm in that frequency amongst brothers. It nourishes me to be amongst that. And it's not a big, massive hero's journey, a big, huge initiation experience, but it's just like, hey, you're going to die one day. Is how you live the last week in accordance with that?
Yeah. And if not, shake that shit off. Like, let that beast out. Give yourself a shake. Give yourself a scream. Let yourself be heard, because, like, fuck, do we want to just go softly to our graves, like, not with a bang but a whimper? No, fuck that shit. Like, what are we here for? I don't want the world to just crumble and slowly die. Like, we're here to make some fucking noise.
I love, yes, bro, yes. One of my favorite movies is Tombstone, and it's a Western, and Val Kilmer plays a guy called Wyatt Earp. No, sorry, not Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday. And he's laying down and he's sick. He's in the hospital and he looks down and he says, I never thought I'd die without my boots on. And what he meant in that is, like, he never thought he'd die not in the arena. He thought the arena was going to take him. And he lived his life very much by, death as a very real part of it, gunslinging and whatnot. And I think I take a lot from that. I was like, do I actually want to die? I want to die with my boots on. Like, I want to die engaged with life. I want to choose to take my last breath as I'm like fucking 103 and my body's finally giving way and I'm like, this is, you know, the last few breaths are coming. Can I meet them with choice? See you on the fucking other side, guys. And if I choose to live in that way, like I want to live with my boots on or die with my boots on, then I'm really just saying the same thing. Is like, I want to be engaged with this moment, doing the thing that I know I'm here to do.
I love this part because you said it, in the arena. And this is, I think, the biggest fear of every man. We grow up, like nowadays we're watching TV every night. We're getting our stimulation from outside of ourselves. And it's been challenging to get into the arena. It's like, oh, I can watch two guys on the TV beat each other up. Yeah. I can watch 10 men run at each other playing football and, you know, get that adrenaline jumping. And that's all cool. There's nothing wrong with that. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. But our willingness to get into the arena, I think that is the thing that has made us afraid of the unknown. Because in the arena, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the scoreboard at the end of the game. You don't know how many times you got hit, how many times you got knocked down. All you have in there is yourself. All you have is what you brought to the arena. There's no tapping someone else in halfway through. No, this is your game. This is your fight.
Dude, it gets me. I want to fucking go outside and wrestle you right now. Like, let's go out and fucking live. Yeah. What the fuck are we doing talking on this? It's an important conversation, obviously, and I love our deep dives, but yeah, for me, it's like, why am I watching someone else do the thing I want to do? Whether it's archery on YouTube or whether it's a camping video on YouTube or whether it's a UFC fight, I'm like, why am I not? I have 2 legs, 2 arms, and a heartbeat. Why the fuck am I not doing it?
Yeah.
Why am I not choosing that? I want to know what it feels like to do that. And this can even like translate over into porn. We're cool to get weird as much as we want. Yeah.
It's a weird way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know why I'm asking you for fucking consent. Like, you're the weirdest motherfucker I know. Guys want to know, guys will watch a chick get fucked up the ass on porn because they're too afraid to fucking go and ask for that from their partner to do that thing or to exist outside of the box of what sex is. And they'll go and find a way that they can get access to it without ever having to like go through the process of what it takes to hold space for a woman to feel safe enough to have that experience. Or whatever sexual experience it is. I always use anal as an example because it is like the cliche taboo thing, which in our circle is probably one of the more normal things. But yeah, like that sort of stuff when we're watching, when you watch some guy go camping on YouTube and you're like, hang on, I have a tent, I have a blanket. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah, why am I not out living? Why am I separating myself from life by the walls around me? And sometimes, like, I love that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
When I choose that. But if I'm unconscious of that and I'm getting stuck in avoidance or, it's been a long day, let's just get on my phone and scroll away the rest of the night. Like, is that actually living? No. And it's the question I ask is, how do we want to spend our moments when there's nothing to do?
Yes.
Like, what are we doing in them moments? Are we getting up the computer and watching porn because we're bored and like, I've got some energy, so I need to get rid of it so I can then go back to sleep? Or are we like, I want to learn. I want to learn how to shoot a bow. I want to go hit the gym. I want to learn what it's like to ask a woman out on a date that I don't know. Plan a date. That scares me. Like, the possibilities once we begin to realize that energy doesn't need to be wasted or used in them spaces. It's like, there's so much potential here.
Totally. You're so right, bro. You're so right. Like where am I not allowing, like when that surge of energy comes through and we look for the easy option, like what else is available? Is it the, shooting the bow? Is it the asking the cute girl out that you buy coffee from every day instead of watching porn? Is it, starting a conversation with someone that I do this all, I can't help myself now. I'm just like in this state of like curiosity around the unknown, but I'm very direct with my curiosity. And this is what I want men to understand if they're listening to this, or women, whoever the fuck you are, is curiosity that comes through passive communication is fucking limp.
Yeah.
It's shit.
Mm.
It's shit. But direct curiosity, hey bro, where the fuck did you get that scarf? I love it.
Mm.
I want to know where you got that. Like I'm clear, and like
there's no ambiguity.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity. And even we were down at the cafe having lunch before, and I was like, I was like, I love this playlist. Like, which one? I was like, hey, who made this playlist? This is fucking epic. Yeah. I fucking love it. This is one of my favorite songs.
Mm.
And I'm engaged with my curiosity by bringing myself. I'm not curious like this. I'm curious like this. Here, have me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not curious of, oh, I'm sitting back and just like, oh, I'm curious why you did that. And there's an undertone or a covert contract of, I want something else out of this.
Yeah.
But there's a very direct approach. I've noticed it for myself. Like if I'm looking to relate with someone or something and be like, oh, I really, or even create a new friendship. It's like, oh, I really enjoy how you did this. I'd love to create a connection, and like being clear with intention as well as desire.
Yes.
And being like, oh, cool. Like this goes back to our conversation around expectation and letting go of that and coming from a place of intention. Oh, my intention, if it was to create a new connection with a person, a partner, or whatever it is, it's like, cool, I like this about you and I'd like this. It's clear, but it's not like, I need this from you. Fucking Jacob, give me your attention. No, this is just what I want.
Yeah, man. It's refreshing. It's refreshing for me because I don't do fucking drama. Drama does my fucking head in. And when you were saying that, I was like, oh, there was this, it's just sort of giving me context to a conversation. I was down at the cafe just down from our place here, and the guy pulled up in a big truck, and it was a sexy black fucking American looking truck. It was a F-250 or one of those big Silverado looking things, or a big Ram. I think it was a Ram truck. And I was like, wow, how did he get that? And the part of me was like, I want him to tell me how he got that so I can work out how I'm going to get one. But what I really wanted to ask was like, hey, bro, what the fuck do you do for work to be able to afford that?
Yeah.
I was like, what's the actual question? I was like, hey, bro, just out of curiosity, what the fuck do you do for work? Because that's a sick truck. I fucking love it. And he's like, oh, I do this. And I'm like, cool. It's like, oh, wow, like that's cool that you answered me. And I'm like, if you didn't answer me, he's like, oh, I'm not going to tell you. Fair enough. No skin off my back, but I at least had the courage to be direct with my curiosity, to actually channel it with intention and be like, oh, cool, I am curious. You don't have to answer me, but I'm going to bring my curiosity to the place cleanly.
Yeah. And I know when I've been in situations and I haven't brought it cleanly, maybe it's more of, oh, I'll present my cock, but it's soft. Instead of being like, hey, here I am. It's like, oh, that curiosity I was speaking to before. And they answer my question, but I leave unsatisfied.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I didn't have what I wanted to happen, or I there was a need or a desire that I wanted that wasn't met because I didn't communicate it clearly. And I see this because then I could go and blame the other person of, oh, they didn't give me what I want. Truthfully, that was me. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't ask for what I wanted. I wasn't clear in myself. And when we're clear, when we know ourselves, we bring it back to ourselves first and being like, this is what I want. This is my desire. And own that, we realize we run a lot cleaner. There's not as many thoughts happening in our head because we're not wondering, oh, what was that thing I wanted? Or how could have that happened to get what I want? No, it's happening in the world around us.
So true, bro. I think we circle back to talking about choice. Like we have a choice in those moments to bring it to the space or try and manipulate our way to it. Around, through, over, under. We try to the word is manipulate for me. And I'm like, I love transparency. I love authenticity. I love to know where I stand. And that's probably part of me needing that certainty as well. But when it comes from that place, I'm going to bring it in this way because this is the way that honors my needs and doesn't pull the wool over your eyes.
Yeah, I was having this thought the other day of how I can create safety for myself. And like, I'm similar. I love a sense of security and a sense of I know what's going to happen. And I also like to hold that space for others and being like, oh, this is what they can expect in this space so that they can feel safe and I can just surrender. Because really I'm giving them direction, but I'm creating that so I can have safety for myself so they don't have expectations of me within that space. So the scenario I was thinking of when I go for a massage, when I go for body work, I don't want any communication. I like to just be there. And I know for some therapists or anything like that, they want to check in and be like, hey, are you this good and that? And for me, it looks like just saying, oh, hey, by the way, before we begin during this, I'm going to be out. I'm not going to talk or any of that unless I want something changed. And if I don't make a noise, it's good.
Yeah.
And that's different. That creates safety for myself and them. But really it's for myself. In a way, it's selfish, but it's also creating safety for them so they can relax and surrender to that moment as well.
Bro, like to me, that's just setting the frame.
Yeah.
It's such a simple tool that like, and this has come back like to what men can do. Like if you set the frame like that person knows where they stand. They know what you want and they're able to then give you that. And then the actual exchange is one that isn't tainted by resentment, frustration, or any of these underlying things that distort the openness that's available there. Yeah, I want to pay you to do this. I want this service, and this is how I want it.
Yeah.
Yes or no.
Yeah. Yeah. When we start acting from that place, the world gets simpler.
Yeah.
There's less ambiguity. There's less playing in the grey. And for me, that feels nice.
And what I understand is like to get to that place where you can be in that level of discernment and deliver your word, your truth in that way. You do have to find like arenas or places where you can go and be with the grey, be with the openness, the formless, the unknown.
Yeah.
And this is why initiations are so important. This is why ceremony is so important. This is why our practices or our rituals are so important, because they give us access to this formless place.
And it's in the formless we take form. It's like, oh, I'm going to go into the darkness so I can learn how to create a light and hold that. And I think that's a big part of what we do as men on this path. And to lead in the way that we do is like, oh, I'm going out there, I'm carving my own path. And in that carving, what kind of world do I want to create?
Yes.
And I like that to be clean. Mostly.
Yeah, totally, man. I think that's such an important piece of like knowing, okay, where do I want to be in the chaos and where don't I?
Yeah.
Or like the chaos being the unknown. Where am I consciously exposing myself to the formless, to the thing that I do not understand or I'm yet to become aware of and structure and formulate? And where am I actually like making sure that my kingdom's tidy, my kingdom's got its structure, it's got its way that things flow. And you come back to like, okay, certainty's a value, or certainty's something that I need to in my life. How am I creating a space for certainty to be there, but not limit me from?
And with that, to bring the certainty within rather than the certainty of the outside results that we're following, because that creates a limitation or an expectation that we then want to control to obtain.
Totally, man. That like, I'm running a few workshops this weekend. We're running the big retreat later in September. I've got a few other things that I'm running. And this weekend coming up, I was like, fuck, is this going to be good? Like, is anyone going to show up? And I got into this whole, like, what's going to happen? And I was like, the way that I create certainty in that moment is like, I'm running this retreat, I'm running these workshops, even if no one turns up. And as soon as I do that, I feel my spine straighten. I feel myself root down into the earth. I feel this surge of power. I feel like myself open. Spirit's fucking anchored into me. I'm deeply connected to the earth. I'm like, hang on. I'm running this workshop even if no one turns up. I'm running this workshop even if it sells out. I'm running this workshop regardless of whatever happens outside of me. And as soon as I do that, boom, I'm back in trust of what I'm here to do. I'm back in place of certainty. And when people feel that certainty, they're more receptive to saying yes.
And there's so much power in that, because that's when we can land in that, I call it the structure of truth.
Yes.
And there's this deep part where it's like, oh, this is the truth of what's occurring. Like for myself, I'm running the Dream Temple in a week. And this is something where I'm like, I have curiosity about what would happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm telling people this as I'm creating it because like this is something that we're exploring together. I'm facilitating, I'm holding the space. I don't know what's going to happen. And in that, I was like, oh, do I want to tell people I have no idea what I'm doing or no idea what to expect? Yeah. Because otherwise it's like, I'm trying to be someone I'm not. I'm trying to prove that I'm good enough, that I'm there or somewhere I'm not. And people feel that even if they don't know, they feel.
Well, they feel the structure of you, like you've provided, like if you're conscious of it, then you're not hiding it.
Yeah.
If you're conscious of it and you're communicating it in a conscious way, you're not hiding it. Hey guys, I have no idea what's going to happen, but this is the intention, this is the way that we're setting it, and this is what'll go down, but I have no idea what's going to come up or come through.
Yeah, it's going back to like speaking to porn and desire and being like, as a man, we can often feel like we need to hide our some of our desires or what we want in the bedroom, any of that. And this is when men go to the porn, they go to like things that are outside of the agreements within their relationship or something that's unhealthy because they're not willing to own that fact. They want to fuck their woman up the ass. They might want to explore kink, BDSM, role play, all these desires, but they're afraid and they don't know how to own that.
Yeah.
And when they do own it, it creates a cleanness of, oh, these desires may be dark, like they could be dark, they could be taboo, but there's a cleanness to them because now they're owned.
Yes.
And that's when we get to play with them.
Can I ask you a question, bro?
Ask away.
So in regards to porn, all these things that we've both sort of been in the conversation around them not normally a positive aspect of people's lives, or they're not normally serving their path. How do you balance right and wrong? You know, this paradox of like, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. Like, because for me, this is something that I brought through in my coaching that I think a lot of men really love about what I do, is that I create a safe space for everything to just be that. Like I always say, it's not right or wrong, it just is. Yeah. So for you, I always have this thing with porn because I love the female form.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the nutrient of feminine energy, like the feminine energy nutrient. And I'm like, I love it. I adore the physical makeup of women, and I just think women are beautiful. But at the same time, there is this concept of like, am I objectifying women? Am I trying to am I being shady by like feeling this urge? But then do I have to go over and tell her, hey, I'm attracted to you, hey, all of this? I'm like, this is where I'm trying to make things right or wrong, rather than just being, there's an animal inside of me that likes to fuck, that likes to feel that urge, that passion, that desire. And it's not up to me. It's not for me to not feel that. It's just for me to discern how to use that energy now. So I'd love to hear like what you think around that sort of right or wrong when it comes to porn or to certain things.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic for me. So I've known a lot of women who work in like sex work and different like strip clubs and topless waiting and their experience within this. And before I knew these women, I had a projection upon them that goes out of my values. And so I've had a lot of conversations with them of, what are my values within this? And this has been a judgment from society. I hadn't actually considered it deep enough to come to a place of what's true for me. And when I speak to them and their experience, most of them love it. Like the ones I've talked to, they're more in the conscious community, so they're doing it in a conscious way. They know their boundaries, they know what they're, and they find enjoyment. They find a sense of fulfillment in it. And I question this because I was like, oh no, that's not possible. They're using their bodies, all of these judgments. But then what was true for them was something completely different. And in that, speaking to what the men received to them from their experience, the men were speaking of how this was some of the most healing experiences they had. And when I look at old temples in ancient times, there was priestesses who would heal men as they came back from war. So they would take men that have been out fighting and take them through a sexual experience. And in this, it would help dissipate a lot of the energy, like from the rage, from the fury, and help heal the men so they could go home to their families. And this was the priestess's roles. And so when I take that, I'm like, oh, I don't think we can have a blanket statement of this is right or wrong. For me, it always comes down to the place it comes from. So if the woman was unconscious and she's doing this because she feels she has no choice and this is the only way for her to make money and she feels objectified and that, I would say that's wrong for her. But if this allows her to feel more alive, more excited by life and draws her deeper into that, I could say that's right for her if there's no subtle disconnect between that. There's no disassociation that's happening within her body in that experience. And this would be hard to tune into. And for me, it's only for her to know. And I can't determine another person's truth. When it comes to more porn, for myself, I used to be right against it. I've been like, no, never touching it. I had a massive porn addiction probably from 14 to about 20. Nearly every day I'd watch porn. And there was times where I'd watch it for hours at it a day. And I had to create a disconnect from that, be like, I'm not doing that ever again. And there was years where I didn't. And then recently I ended a relationship a few months ago. At the end of it, I felt really tight. I felt really contracted. And there was an evening where I just embraced my hedonist. I poured myself some Baileys. I sat on the couch. I ate shitty food. I watched porn. I just allowed myself all of it, all the things, because there was such a tight grip on myself saying, this is bad. You can never do that again. And in that, I was holding shame against myself that this wasn't okay. And I was still shaming that part of myself that watched porn all them years.
Yeah, wow.
So in that experience, I woke up the next day and I felt free because I allowed myself the experience. And I didn't have any shame. I didn't judge myself. And in that, I was like, oh, cool. Do I want to be a man that watches porn? No. I want to be a man that can choose to watch it, and I choose not to. And that, for me, is a big difference when we're doing anything. I want to know I could fucking kill someone, and I choose not to. I don't want to be a little bitch in the corner that's too afraid to take up arms. I want to know that I can pick up the sword, but I don't need to. And I think that, for me, is what's right or wrong. Checking in with our own values and it coming from a place of choice, not from a place of this is the only way.
It felt like that hedonist evening was almost like a balancing of the energies of okay, I'd put this as wrong, I'd put this as right, and the tension between those two has got me so contracted that when I actually embrace it with choice, I then am able to relax into whether I want to or not. I can actually make a decision from a centered place, which for me is such a important part of manhood, which is to make a choice, but to not do it from a place of this is right or this is wrong. It's these are my options, and I'm going to choose the one that aligns with my values, that aligns with me as a man, and actually honors what I truly want.
Yeah, and the question I ask nowadays, is this in service to me? And so when I'm it's late at night and I'm like, oh, I told myself I was going to do this practice before I go to bed. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it tonight. And there's this voice that says, you don't got to do it tonight. And I ask, is this in service to me? Will this serve me? And if that's a yes, I do it. And sometimes it's not a yes. Sometimes it's like, no, it's actually in service to go to bed right now. Yeah. But actually having that check-in with ourselves and choosing what's for the greatest good of ourselves.
Love that, bro. Is this in service to me? Meg and I were chatting yesterday about this, and we're like, when you go to do an ice bath and there's that little voice in your head that says, you don't have to do it. And you're like, yeah, you're right. I need to look after, self-care isn't just ice baths. And you're like, in that moment, I'm avoiding what is in service to me. But then there's other times where I wake up and I'm like, for me to force myself to hop in the ice bath just because I said that's what I'm going to do and it's what I'm keeping my word is more important than honoring the truth beneath that, and almost being okay with the person that fails to keep their word. There's so much to learn from that practice as well. So I love what you've said there, man. Is this in service to me? Yes, okay, follow that. No, okay, sit with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sit with your no and be okay with disengaging from something and allowing that when to re-engage to come online.
Yeah, I love that discernment of these pieces, man, and such an important practice.
I feel people can get so what I've noticed with men especially, I work predominantly most of the time with men. Meg and I do a little bit of stuff relationship wise, so I've worked with women a little bit the last few months, but men can really grab hold of a formula or grab hold of a concept, and then it becomes a fucking weapon to keep everything else, to almost like guard themselves. Sexual polarity, no, I'm masculine. You don't need to know about my feelings. I'm just going to lead everything. Yeah. I'm going to be in charge all the time. It's like, bro, that's you kind of you're missing the layer beneath that. Yeah. Or whether it's attachment styles, or whether it's mindset, or whether it's the morning routine. Yeah. Oh, fuck me dead with the morning routine. Chill the fuck out, motherfuckers.
Yeah, relax a little bit.
Relax. But at the same time, it's one of those things of like, okay, I'm overcompensating here. Can I actually relax and allow my choice to be from this place of I am enough, I am whole, and I want to experience more structure and routine in my life, and part of that's like having my mornings all organized, and I get to be excited when I wake up versus I have to do these to feel like I'm successful.
I love that, man, and I think that is a very, very powerful statement to begin to wrap this up with. I'm feeling really fucking thrilled by this. And before we do that, there's 2 questions I want to ask.
Please.
For the man who's feeling that call to start his path, who's ready to lead in that direction, but maybe there's fear, maybe there's something he believes he's stopping him. What do you say to that man?
I say, regardless of your values and your vision or any of that, like you need to know what your fucking desires are. What do you desire for you? And there's no right or wrong desires. There's just your desires. So get a pen, get a piece of paper, write 1 to 25 down the left-hand side and write out 25 fucking desires. It doesn't matter if they're small and can be done in 10 minutes or if they're big and they take a lifetime to reach. This is the key part to revealing what it is that you want to spend your time moving toward or doing every day. And then when you start to like look at that, then you can see, is my lifestyle actually congruent with what I'm desiring? And if it's not, then you can start to look at, okay, what values do I need to put in place so these become a possibility? And what vision is going to start to draw me forward or inspire me into deeper embodiment of my values, so all of these desires just become a part of my life. So I often, get caught up in the values and vision and all this fucking men's work, but really the place to start is desires. What wants to move through you? What do you want to experience here on earth? And when I did that, my whole life fucking changed. And I'd been doing a bit of men's work before that and a bit of plant medicine work. But when I finally said, what do I desire? Because it's so easy to just assume that your desire is to work and make money, or that your desire is to do whatever your partner wants or whatever your family wants or whatever your responsibilities are. But, man, I've got a desire. I've got some crazy fucking desires, and they're the things that drive me. In 5 years' time, I want to do a race through the desert, the Sahara Desert. There's 6 marathons in 6 days. And I'm like, that's a desire. I want to do that.
Yes.
It's fucking stupid. It has no real ROI in my business or my relationship, but it does.
Yeah.
And, and then on the other end of the spectrum, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be able to wake up and make coffee at homes, buy a coffee machine, and buy the coffee machine that I want, so I enjoy it. Little things like this, like just what are my desires and how am I letting them actually inspire me to create the life that I want to live right now and pull me towards more of my own truth, rather than just be like, oh yeah, one day, or just be like, oh yeah, I'll work out what I want once I get through this chapter. Nah, fuck that. Let them set the course and then walk the path.
I feel the potency of that. I know desires is where I start, and realizing how many I fucking have and just owning them, even if I'm not going after them right now, being like, oh, I want that. Because as men, we can get taught, no, that's not okay. That's too much. So fucking own what you want and be true to that.
Yes, please.
Man, that is potent. And I think I'm going to do that right after this. Recheck in with myself. I've done a lot lately, and I think it's important to come back to. So, man.
Was there another question there, bro?
There is.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's more just if someone wants to find you, what do you got coming up? Like, what do you want to share?
Hit me up on Instagram at the Jacob O'Neill, Oneill. Yeah, check. You can click the link in my bio, and that'll show you everything that's coming up right now. I'm really focusing on in-person events, so you can probably see some stuff there. We've got a big retreat coming up at the end of the year, so hit Dino up about that. He's facilitating alongside me. We've facilitated, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4. This might even be the fifth experience, fourth or fifth experience. We've
fourth together.
Yeah,
I was at the first one.
Yeah, and we've done a few different workshops together it's going to be a beautiful thing called the Gathering of Men. Which, if you're a man, you qualify. But it's a really great way for you to experience the full spectrum of men's work where you get to challenge yourself through some really amazing embodiment practices. You get to experience the celebration that comes from men choosing to honor each man's win as theirs, this real beautiful collective celebration of manhood. And then the third one is to connect deeply with brotherhood, to actually experience what it's like to have deep relationships with other men beyond the surface, beyond the banter. So, yeah, click the link in my bio, come along, check it out. And, if you have any questions, all you have to do is shoot me a message. I'm very, very active on the socials, and I love to have conversations, and I love to be of service where I can. So don't hold back, and would love to chat to whoever feels the call.
Thank you, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, be in your space, you share this with me and be able to dive into this. It's been a great pleasure to know you, brother. If anyone's listening, this man has been a pillar for me in the last 2.5 years. I've got deep respect, so much love, and just really honor him as a man. So thank you, brother. For those listening, thank you for joining us here on The Weird Way. Aho.
Aho.